Whether you're hoping to work with a publishing house or you've decided to self-publish, having your book edited professionally can add quality and value to your manuscript. But understanding the process and knowing how to make the most out of this experience is crucial before you begin.
Joining us is Jane Fransson, a freelance editor with the New York Book Editors, having edited 6 New York Times bestsellers and many others. She'll share her insights on that important writer-editor relationship. Welcome.
Thank you.
We know that there are a lot of editing services available out there. Tell us about a few of those.
Well, you can hire an editor to do almost anything you want them to do. It goes from copy editing and proofreading, which is catching typos and fixing your grammar mistakes, all the way up to ghostwriting, which some editors do, and there's sort of everything in between. Most freelance editors focus on line editing and developmental editing, which is big picture. It depends on what kind of book you're writing, but making what's on the page sound better, making the whole book read better, from plot and structure to dialogue to characterization, all that kind of stuff.
Got it.
Okay. So when you go about trying to find an editor as a writer, what qualifications are you looking for? Because I know it's a person-to-person relationship. It's not as simple as it might seem.
It's not. It can be one of the best relationships in a writer's world, and can be one of the most fraught relationships in a writer's world. And because it's so personal. I mean, all you writers know, once you put something down on a page, it's your baby. It's your thoughts and your feelings in your writing.
Definitely.
And hearing someone tell you it's not as good as you thought it was is a little bit rough sometimes. So what you want to make sure, first of all, is you're on the same page as your editor. So if you want them to not touch your words, just make it clean, fix your commas and periods, they need to know that. If you want an editor to completely rewrite your work and you have no qualms about ownership, then that's a whole nother thing. You just have to be on the same page. I really also think it's important to personally like your editor so that you get along, you get each other's jokes, you understand each other's personalities, you know what you both want from each other. So from a business standpoint, the relationship should be really clear what you want from each other. And from a personal standpoint, you should get along and kind of enjoy the process with each other.
So communication as well as the I guess you would call it the kinship between each other.
Yeah, I mean, people always say, I would never take on a book about something that I didn't agree with or I didn't enjoy reading, but some of my favorite books that I've edited are the kinds of books I would have picked up in a bookstore anyway. And that's hopefully the best I can bring to the table, is a book that I'm really comfortable, because it's the kind of book I'd like to read anyway.
Well, that's another point then. Hopefully somebody who enjoys at least the genre that you're writing.
Yes, do not, if you're writing a biography of a 1800s historical figure, do not hire a freelance editor who specializes in sci-fi romance.
Right.
It's not going to work. It's never going to work.
Walk us through where do you start? How does the editing process begin? I'm a writer, I'm going in, what do I do? What's step one?
If you're thinking of hiring an editor, it's usually because you've gotten as far as you can with your own work and with begging all your friends and family to read your manuscript and give you feedback on it. Usually people are ready to get to the next level because they either want to self-publish something, they want to find an agent, or they want to find a publisher. So once you've gone through what we just said of finding someone you think fits the bill, does the work in the kind of area you work in, you want to find out how they work, what kind of contract they require, how much they charge, if you're comfortable with all of that.
So ask them those questions up front. How much is it per hour? Is it per project? And you put that in.
Ask them everything. I mean, there are no dumb questions. A lot of us have websites set up so you can find out more about our experience, but a lot of it's personal. Each project, depending on if I'm editing a 20-page proposal for someone who already has an agent, or if I'm someone who just has written their first novel, it's a very different process. So ask all the questions you want. Ask about if it's a per project or per page or per hour fee. And again, see if you're on the same page, see if it's someone you're comfortable with. It's always good to know if they've had experience in, again, the genre you're working in, so that you think they're going to have good feedback for you. And really focus on making sure all your questions get answered before you start, because it's a business relationship above all. And you want to start the process knowing you're comfortable with what their plans are for you.
Okay, let's say that a writer is going to have an editor to do more than just looking for typos and simple things. I think it's called line editing. What kind of feedback can they expect to get from that kind of an experience?
There's a lot of what I hope to do is teach people how to write. And it sounds, the best writers in the world I've had people who are full-time New Yorker writers that I think my job is also to teach them to write better. Everybody needs to know tips and tricks for making words sound smoother, making dialogue run better. So if you're line editing, usually it's towards the end of the process. Developmental editing would be a little bit earlier on, again, making your book better.
Okay.
Making sure it's plotted well, making sure the pacing is right, making sure it doesn't bog down anywhere, making sure the characters are believable.
So developmental is broader, whereas line editing is very specific, even down to the very word.
Yeah, we usually tell people don't waste your money on line editing unless the manuscript is bang up, perfect, kind of
Makes
ready to
sense.
rumble.
Sure.
So the developmental part is making sure the big picture is in order. The line editing is making sure everything reads more cleanly. So a line editor will help you, this dialogue doesn't sound very believable. This paragraph makes me not like this character as much.
Okay.
You've really gotten off topic here and you're not furthering your thesis. All that kind of stuff is a tighter line edit, but all within a bigger developmental edit.
That makes sense to start with developmental and move on to, okay, great.
Yeah.
Now, once it's been edited, right? Now the writer makes those changes. Does the editor look at that work again and give you additional feedback since the first time, or no?
Yeah, that's another thing that you work out ahead of time. Sometimes, we call ourselves book doctors too, but sometimes people want you on board from the beginning to the end. If you've had a good relationship, I just had a fantastic relationship with a memoir writer who wrote the book. I edited 2 different drafts of it, and we found her a great agent in New York. She got more feedback, and she still wanted my feedback on a new draft she was working on for the agents, just because we got each other, and it worked out really well. But there are other people who want one quick edit, move on, I'm ready to publish, so you work it out ahead of time. But a lot of the time, it turns into a relationship. And if you've asked for changes, I'm always open to have authors come back to me, say, oh, can we talk about this? I changed the scene. I know you had a problem with it. I'd really love for you to read it and go through it. So a lot of the time it turns into a long-term relationship, which is really nice.
Yeah.
Okay, one last quick one for you, and this is a tough one, I think, for a lot of people. How does a writer go about finding the good editor when the time comes?
I mean, most of my best relationships come from personal recommendations. So if you can ask, if you're a writer and you're in a writer's group, ask your writer friends who they've worked with, if they've heard of anyone, if their friends know of anyone. You can certainly Google people. There's some great places online where there are a lot of freelance editors with great experience in the business. So Google helps. Looking at their experience helps, but I would always say ask writer friends of who they've had a good relationship. You'll find the best people
Sounds
that
like
way.
there's a pretty good chance they'll find somebody out
Yeah,
there.
most writers, it's a small world. We all know each other at
Yes,
some
yes.
point, right?
Yes. Jane, thank you very much. These are some really helpful tips that we can
Yes.
follow to make sure that our book gets edited
I know our
appropriately.
viewers enjoyed it.
Oh, good. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.